All right. And Sam, thank you so much for hopping in today, taking some time to share your story with us. I'm super pumped for this different perspective that you're going to help us see with a lot of people uh, that I think are going to be really inspired. Honestly, I'm really excited about sharing this. So, before we jump into your specific experience and journey with diabetes, I'd love to know a little bit about the past with where you've come from, like your diagnosis, how long you've had diabetes, what kind of diabetes tech are you using or not using. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Um, so I was just diagnosed a year ago and got on the Dexcom within like 3 weeks, which is really fortunate to do that. So I've been using the Dexcom for almost a year now. And just in July, beginning of July, got my tandem pump. So I'm using the Dexcom and the tandem and um, getting pretty comfortable with those. Still experimenting with sites and all that. I use the True Steel, and I've gone back and forth between the AutoSoft 30 and the True Steel. So I kind of do both at the moment.
Gotcha. So getting on Dexcom 3 weeks into it, was that just like a God thing, or was it like somebody you knew someone on the inside that slipped you a Dexcom? Like, how did you get that so quickly?
Yeah, no, I was have been super blessed to have a great what's the term, general provider. Uh, my doctor that I hadn't connected with at all before diabetes. 'Cause I'm on OHP, Oregon Health Plan, for free, and I didn't have any health things. I was super healthy, still super healthy, but just with diabetes. But I know
Right.
my doctor's a lot better now than I did. So anyway, in the general practitioner's office was connected with their diabetes specialist, um, who is the super great. I forget what her class. I think she's just a nurse, but she's really familiar with diabetes and all the gadgets and stuff. And so she's the one that got that prescription for me, got me going on that. So I was really lucky.
Gotcha. Well, that is really cool. And then obviously, like, still pretty recent, like the whole diabetes thing and getting it figured out. I mean, you took action to get it figured out a lot faster than I did when I was first diagnosed. So, I mean, really proud of you for doing that and just jumping into it. But before finding us and even like considering working with a diabetic health coach, what were you struggling with within diabetes before working with us?
Thanks. Yeah. Well, yeah, really, the biggest thing was just kind of the psychological, mental side of me, and my numbers, blood glucose average, and all that. My A1C was pretty good. Even my first few months, it was pretty good. I I can be pretty good or bad depending on how you look at it with being very controlling with certain things. So I was just checking constantly my numbers and eating or giving myself more insulin to kind of micromanage my diabetes. Um, and so, what really got me into looking at coaching programs was just starting to YouTube some stuff like sites and pumps and diabetes equipment. And so a few programs came up, but I didn't really dive into many of them. My favorite YouTube instructional video was actually one of yours, talking about the tandem pump. Yeah, and that was my first. That's how I kind of found you and your program. So uh, but yeah, I really want. I realized I needed help with um, changing my mindset and my mental state with things, and I really wanted to learn more about diabetes and the different variables.
Mhm.
So watching a few of your videos, it's like, okay, this guy, it seems like he knows what he's talking about. I'd be interested in looking into it more and connecting with you. Um, So yeah, glad I found your YouTube video, and that kind of introduced me to this. But basically, it was recognizing after about 6 months of managing my diabetes, before I really came to a point of recognizing like I can't do this mentally. I can't control. I can control my diabetes and I can be healthy on the physical level, but mentally, I recognized I just needed help. And psychology and counseling is a great way to get help. And um, I had opportunities for that, but what I thought I needed was someone who had diabetes and could more understand what I was going through. So anyway, that's kind of the long answer for why I started thinking about coaching programs in general.
Gotcha. So with that, just like psychological and mental health awareness, I mean, it took me years to even accept that I had diabetes, and then of course, understanding the mental side of things. What were you feeling? What were you going through internally in relation to your diabetes?
Sure. Yeah, well, I think um, I am someone who is pretty pain averse, or I don't like well, no one likes feeling their pain, but I especially, I think, maybe created sort of habits when I was very, very little, when it came to emotional pain in particular. I think I learned how to numb and ignore, which was great. It helped me survive, and I don't have a lot of traumatic events in my past, but that was just kind of a mental trick that I learned at a young age and stuck with me. And I could kind of just turn off all the emotional processing, which is a really, really bad thing. And I'm just now starting to learn how to feel things like anger and sadness. So, so my diagnosis with diabetes was kind of at an interesting point in my life. I uh, just turned 26 this last summer, um, and I also just got married in May, so fairly soon after my diagnosis. But I would say in the last couple of years, I'm starting to mature in a new way, becoming comfortable with my pain and my emotions. So with diabetes, there's a lot of emotions that come up, and that came up for me right away. And having the habits that I did of ignoring pain and the emotional side of things, I did that pretty good, and I managed my pain well, and I achieved great A1C and numbers and all that. But I wasn't doing well mentally. I was feeling overwhelmed, disconnected, uh, numb. So a lot of not feeling, if that makes sense. So I don't know. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like you did what was necessary initially to get to a healthy point on paper, and your doctors were like, "This is awesome, high five,
Exactly.
good
Yep.
job." But internally, you're just like, "I hate this. I don't know how to process this. This is a lot." Is that
Hmm.
kind of
Hmm.
how it felt?
Yeah, yeah, and exactly. You added an important piece in there with the doctors. I did get some great encouragement, and it was really good from my doctors, from my endocrinologists, um, saying uh, like I'm doing such a great job, and they weren't really worried about me,
Right.
which is valid. Like you've talked about in one of your podcasts, um, how the endocrinologists oftentimes pay more attention to their patients that are doing worse, and so anyone doing better than average is like, great, you're doing awesome, I don't have to worry about you. um,
Right.
and that was my experience, and I wanted a little bit more attention because I knew internally on the mental psychological side, I wasn't doing very well. So yeah, then that was another reason why I was starting to think about coaching, thought that maybe could be helpful.
Gotcha. And then I'm curious on that topic. Obviously, like at the point where you found me, I was just some random YouTuber on the internet, right?
Yeah.
What made you take a chance on working with a stranger?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was very skeptical. It took a couple months of thinking about it, watching different YouTube videos of yours and kind of looking you up, like, who is this guy? Is this just a scam? Or what? And one of the frustrating things for me that, I don't know, it must be different for everyone. Um, but I was really wondering, like, what's the cost going to be? Is this just a money making thing, or is this guy for real, trying to help people? Anyway, it was kind of a long process of doubting and questioning. But one of the things that really helped me move forward, and my wife Naomi, um, was our first real-time phone call with you, um, and just hearing your questions and your ability to listen. um, that was huge. That helped me trust a lot, that you really were a good guy. so so that was a big part of it. Prayer. I'm religious and spiritual, and so that was a key aspect of it as well. But there wasn't a clear sign, or a sense of peace that came over me. But I did pray about it a lot, and decided, okay, I'm going to trust you, God. Like, this is something that I want, and I don't feel like you're saying no. And this guy seems legit. So I went ahead and did it, and I'm really glad I did. But it was kind of a leap of hope.
Absolutely. So you're saying I didn't take your money and run to Costa Rica?
Right. Yep. Yeah. He didn't. No. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm stoked that you jumped in with us as well. I mean, it's been incredible that just kind of watching your progress through different aspects. And it's like, even if it's not directly blood sugar related, indirectly, the mental health aspect and the perseverance that you built up is really fun to watch.
Mhm.
But I'm curious too, like, obviously, after you joined in, was there a moment where you realized, like, this is working, where blood sugars were more, they made sense more, or like any moment like that?
Yeah. Good question. I would say that it actually got harder before it got better. Like, my first week was good in the program, going through the videos, starting basal testing. Um, but after that, like, it was hard. It was hard to pass the basal tests, and I got discouraged. And the first month was a little bit hit or miss. I kind of stopped doing the homework on, like, week 2, and I think I was still showing up to the calls. Like, that was really helpful. But yeah, no, um, felt like I was failing my goals. I was, but um, there's opportunity for growth. Like, I think that failure is a tricky thing, and that can be very discouraging. But I've found it helpful to acknowledge mistakes and recognize them as failures, but knowing that that's not uh, that's not where the story has to end. So anyway, I struggled, and mentally I was obsessing over my numbers even more maybe than I was before. But I think it was week 6 or week 7, pretty late into the program, that I finally started improving, and that was soon after. I think it was the momentum call, kind of midway with you.
Yeah.
You helped me feel okay about um, practicing not looking at my CGM, and starting slow and feel okay that it was a struggle. And just knowing that you also had a similar struggle, that helped me a lot, even though there wasn't, like, any particular magic words that you said. Like just knowing that you had been through it was huge. So yeah, that's when things started to improve. And like we said before we started this call or whatever, like the last couple of weeks have been the best that it's ever been out of this whole year, as far as not feeling obsessed and not feeling the compulsion to check constantly. So anyway.
I love that. So, okay, I want to go two different routes here, but one is tell me about the last couple of weeks. What made it the best, and what's it like now that that's working for you?
hmm Well, I think a piece of it is understanding the variables, understanding nutrition, and understanding exercise in my body. I can do things with more confidence, knowing what exactly it's going to do with my blood sugar because I've tested kind of through your program. That's helpful. That's helped me relax and not worry about where my blood sugar is going to go. And then also, I think that having completed the program and being equipped with the knowledge that I have, I think the other thing, not just the knowledge, but the community and the relationships that I began getting to know other people in the program, was also a huge confidence booster. Knowing like, okay, there's other people that are going through the same things. That was huge. And I think I finally got to the point where I could relax and not worry about my numbers. And maybe because I knew so much more, I was able to achieve better blood sugars, like incrementally better, like a couple percentages better. So not much, but a little bit. And that gave me the confidence to know, okay, I cannot worry about where my blood sugar is going, and I can just kind of forget about it, let it go on autopilot.
Absolutely. And actually, on that note, since I know that we haven't talked about it on this call just yet,
Mhm.
what are those numbers that you're seeing, like time and range wise?
Yeah, so I started. Well, first off, you helped me change my range from time in range from 70 to 150, because that's what I was thinking as in range before. So I changed that to 70 to 180, and right off the bat, like 90% time in range, great. That helps. Just increase your range and you'll improve. uh, so no, I was at about 90% time in range, and my A1C was around 6 beginning, or before, at least the last time that I checked,
Mhm.
which was a couple more months. But anyway, and now my last A1C was 5.1, and time in range is like over 90 days, it's still 90% time in range, but over
Mhm.
a 2-week period, it's 96, 97 time in range. Yeah.
Holy cow. Well, that's better than me. Congrats. 5.1. That's holy moly, that's impressive. I love that though, because you said it's the higher time in range, the lower A1C, but also there's mental peace where you
Mhm,
don't have to stare at your numbers every 5 minutes. And that to me is
mhm,
so
mhm,
important, right?
mhm.
But one
Definitely.
other piece that I wanted to add on there as well is that you mentioned like week two, you stopped doing your homework briefly. And
Mhm,
I remember I got an email from you midway or kind of towards the end of the program
mhm,
where
mhm,
you owned up to that. And you were like, hey, I stopped showing up. I stopped doing my homework. I'm ready to figure this out. I need to take this into my own hands. And that to me is one of the biggest and most important shifts that you can make is just owning up to things and taking responsibility. I had a shift like that a few years ago, and since then, my life has become dramatically different. So I am thrilled that you had that ability to just to own, the single mistake you made and then pick up where you left off. That's
mhm.
huge. So yeah, I just wanted to say I'm proud of you for doing that. That's
Thanks.
really
Thanks.
admirable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you
Uh,
have to do that.
What's that?
You helped me get there.
Well, I mean, you clearly showed up and then finished off strong. So I'm really happy to see what you've been able to accomplish. Just with a little bit of guidance, you were able just to take off and really make it your own. So really
Thank
happy about that. And then actually, kind of like now that you're on the other side of this, I know you started off skeptical and trying to figure out like, what is this? Is it a scam? What advice would you give to somebody from your current perspective if they were in that skeptic situation?
hmm Yeah, well, I do know that there are some scams out there, and there are a lot of programs that maybe aren't helpful. So I think that skeptic nature is necessarily a bad thing, um, but also like do your research. But uh, a big step for me was committing to spending money on myself. Like as a diabetic, you've got a lot of costs. So I didn't want to add to those for just another thing. But I think getting over the hurdle of spending money on myself was big, and recognizing like it's okay, I can spend money on me, and that'll be okay. And having Naomi, my wife, to support me in that was hugely helpful too. So yeah, was that your question?
Yeah, I think that the answer is do your research, like
hmm
whether or not this is the program or you're looking into another program, do your
hmm
due diligence, right?
Yep.
Look into it.
Right.
And the second piece was just saying it's okay for me to invest in myself, like not feeling guilty about that, but rather
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah.
long term that I'm looking at. Is that kind of what you were going for?
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. You're really good at listening and re stating the things that I say. I think I'm guessing you're good at with doing that with other people too.
I'm still
Yeah.
practicing with my wife, but I'm getting there.
Good. Good. Nice.
Oh man, well that's awesome. I totally agree. Everybody should do their due diligence, research, make sure it's a good fit. Don't jump
hmm
into things blindly.
hmm
But yeah, I'm glad that you were able to do that research and then ultimately find out that we were the real deal and able to help you with these things.
hmm
Um, and then kind of to wrap up, I would love to hear from your perspective, like what was a golden nugget, something that you picked up from the program, whether it was directly or indirectly, that you want to share with the audience.
hmm hmm Uh, yeah, I think that the one of the gold nuggets that I've received multiple times. It's not my favorite nugget, but I think is the most helpful. Grace. Have grace for yourself. That's really hard to do, and I'm really bad at it. So I'll just admit that. But um, it's key. Whatever it takes to learn how to have grace for yourself, whether it be talking with other people who are in the struggle as well, or journaling, doing that discipline, practicing the discipline of having grace for yourself. Um, Something that I learned, I'm still learning. I haven't figured it out, but that was, I think, kind of my big hurdle. Like when I sent you the email, just kind of confessing, like, okay, I've stopped doing the homework, and I feel bad about this, but this is kind of where I'm at, and I want to move on. So what's the I think I asked a few technical questions and kind of set a new standard goal for myself, and I've been following with that. Okay, it's still there's failures, but no, just having faith for myself is I think the most important thing that I've learned, that I think could be helpful for anyone, whether it be diabetes or sports or what. It's a hard lesson to learn though. So
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's crucial, right? We're all gonna have bad days, so give yourself grace when that does happen. And I love that messaging behind it as well, especially from your perspective of good numbers without grace or without mental health is not quite as valuable as with that, where you're able to say, okay, I feel good about this. I'm not obsessed. I give myself grace. So I love uh, all messages pertain to that. I think it's super important. Um, that being said, do you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
yeah, no, I think just like I said, I haven't mastered grace, This is still a process, and yeah, I've graduated from the program, or maybe I haven't. I don't know. I don't think you sent me a certificate, so I don't know. But I'm still learning, even though I've gone through the program, and I'm still learning to have grace, and that's a process, I guess, for anyone who's listening. Like, it's going to be a long process of figuring out diabetes, and I'm only a year into it, so I'm definitely learning that, because that's a message to myself. And it's okay for it to take a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah, don't need to rush this through, but you are in the lead if there were ever a scoreboard because the year in is impressive.
Mm,
But yeah, I mean, overall, Sam, I just want to say I'm proud of you for having multiple light bulb moments in the program, like not just diabetes, but also, your own personal growth. It's incredible watching that, and I'm really happy that I got to be part of that process for you. It's
mm,
it's an honor. So
mhm.
really proud of you.
Yeah, thanks. And if I can add real quick, I guess I do want to uh, say thanks to you for this program and your role in it. And I think another thing that you did really well, that I think was really wise, is to not take responsibility for my change or other clients in your program. You really let me take responsibility for my own mistakes. And that was huge, and that's a hard lesson to learn. And if I hadn't learned that, like, that would have been a big bummer. But I think you've done a great job of um, giving me control to do those things, and I think you do that with others in your program as well. So thanks for developing this and putting so much um, time and work into it. Yeah, it's huge.
It's my absolute pleasure, Sam. I appreciate those kind words as well. Definitely fills me with joy to see you guys go through it and have those moments of learning. So, yeah, again, so thankful for you just to share this story with people. I know that this message of hope and grace and even just mental health in general needs to be just
Mhm.
put on the loudspeakers. People need to know that diabetes is tough, more than just blood sugars, but mentally as well. So thank you so much for sharing your journey with us and for taking time out of your day. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you everybody else for watching. This is a fun thing for us to share with you, and hopefully you found some inspiration through Sam's story. And then actually, if you're a YouTube watcher like Sam was himself, then you can also go check out some of our stuff over there. Or if you want to just jump straight to the trainings, there's a free training that I think is what brought Sam in as well. You guys can find that for free at diabetesinaction.com. So thank you so much, Sam. Love to hear about the improvements even after graduation. Keep up the great work. And just keep us updated, man. This is so exciting as you go through this journey.
For sure. Thanks, Matt.
You got it. Thanks, everybody else. Keep up the fight.
See ya.